the first thing to determine when you are starting to create a new footprint for a component is the drawing of the component and what are the things that would be required. So for that, what you need to do is you need to find out the datasheet for the particular component whose footprint you are trying to make, or a drawing file if it is a mechanical component, and look into that. Now in your parts kit, the stuff that goes on the board to hold your ICs are those IC brackets. Now the 8284 that I have used in my design has 18 pins on that, like your RTC IC, and hence I'm going to use the RTC socket that you guys have as my reference for the design. So I'll use that 18 pin socket for my design. So I have the component that you guys are going to use, the datasheet for that or the drawing for that is this one. Now the first thing that you need to find out in any of the drawings or the datasheet is that what are the units of these numbers which you see in the drawing sheet or the datasheet where it shows measurements for the particular component. Now if you look carefully into the datasheet, at some point in the datasheet you would have this written that the unit is in millimeters. So that is mostly the reason why we chose millimeters as our scale. Once we find that, then we are sure that these measurement units are in millimeters, and then what we can do is find our part. So if I look through this thing, I can find that my part is the one with 18 pins, so that drawing, all relevant drawings would be in this column. So what I do is I zoom into that PCB layout which is shown. Now what it tells me is that each of the pins is basically 1 millimeter in diameter, and that symbol in any drawing is for diameters. So it's 1 millimeter in diameter, and then the pitch or the spacing between two consecutive pins is 2.54 millimeters, and then the spacing between the two rows of pins is 7.62 millimeters. Now the plus and minus unit which you see is basically the tolerance. So from device to device, if you, or rather from component to component, if you measure it, you would basically find this to be either anything between 7.82 to 7.42. So in my case, what I do is I go with the typical measurement, which is without the tolerance. So I'll just go by 7.62. It's up to you which measurement you take as your basis to do your design. Just remember that if you choose one, go with the same choice for the other ones as well. So basically, if you choose 7.82 as your thing here, so you are choosing the tolerance to be the positive, in the positive direction. So do that for the other measurements as well, wherever the tolerances are specified. So now with that in mind, we now have the drawing which we have to mimic to create our footprint. So in the next video, we are going to see how we create the pads, which is basically on what each of these pins would rest in OrCAD PCB editor.